Hey guys, I just wanted to do my review of Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 10, Progeny. So the gang heads into the year 2147, into the Kasdian conglomerate in which, in the future, corporations have such a huge influence on governments that they essentially become one and the same. And so the Kasdian conglomerate is essentially this utopian, at least utopian on the surface, but kind of dystopian police state. And the outside world is like this chaotic, riotous, like famine-ridden place. Although we don't get to see any of it, we just see mostly autonomous robots modeled after Ray's Atom suit, policing the streets and even shooting down a mugger who takes a purse out in broad daylight, and basically crime is almost non-existent. This is also the time period in which Per Degaton, a fairly well-known time-traveling villain from DC Comics, here he's a teenager who's being mentored by Vandal Savage, and is supposed to be acting as a, history tutor by his father, Tor Degaton. And Rip explains how Savage manipulates Per Degaton into, releasing killing his own father and releasing a virus that wipes out billions and takes over the whole planet. And then afterwards, Vandal ultimately usurps the throne from him, which is how he becomes the Conqueror by 2066. So they have to deal with the moral dilemma of whether or not to just kill him, because he's kept referring to the essentially little Hitler of his time. And they're pretty split about it. Rip and Captain Cold are on board with the idea, and Victor Garber, Dr. Stein, says that, can you really look your son in the eye knowing that you saved his life by killing another child? And so they decided to go with the idea in which Rip, Rip, Sarah, and I think Sarah and Captain Cold go to try to get into a meeting to learn more about Per Degaton and Vandal Savage, and then the three decide maybe just to kidnap him. And Rip decides to bring him on. Rip decides to bring him on board the time ship because he hasn't completely decided to kill him yet. But he ends up taking him on a jump ship, taking out the transponder so the Legends can't follow him, and takes him out by a river to show him what the outside world looks like, which is basically just a river and some burnt down trees. And he talks about how he never got to teach his son to swim before he died. And Rip points his gun at him, and then Per Degaton says, Vandal Savage taught me how to spot a killer. I can see in your eyes you don't have it in you to kill me. And as an act of mercy, Rip spares him, saying that not killing it, the fact that I spared your life isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of goodness. So I had to believe that there's even a shred of goodness in you that'll be able to ultimately do the right thing. Some other subplots involve Kendra keeps having flashbacks to her life with Hawkman as the Boardmans and their son Aldous, and she opens up with Ray saying that she feels like she's cheating on Hawkman with him. And we also learn, when being given a tour of a company with Ray's given a tour of a company with Stein and Jax by Dr. Bryce, who's played by Jewel State from Firefly, and finds out that she's actually a descendant of Ray Palmer, and that the autonomous suits that Vandal Savage that's being used to police the Kasdian conglomerate and also helps Vandal Savage conquer the world are based on his suit design. She has to wrestle with that fact, but it seems the episode focuses more on the fact they just knocked up somebody before he took off on the Wave Rider. And what I thought was like the biggest fucking cop out was the fact that when they were trying to stop the autonomous drones during a fight, like remote, from the inside the security room, and they're caught by Jewel State. It turns out that she's a descendant of Sidney Palmer, who turns to be an identical twin brother of Ray Palmer, who doesn't get along with Ray, and Felicity apparently hired to work on the tech stuff when Ray presumably doesn't make it back from his time travel trip. And I don't know, it just seems to be like, I don't know, I guess like it kind of goes back. It kind of goes back to the whole thing in episode 6, in which, you know, Ray and Sarah's not being present in Star City during Deathstroke, the invasion of Deathstroke's son, Grant Wilson's attack, that it led to that bad future in Star City. So it's almost like, I guess it kind of at least affects the bad future in the 22nd century. I think it's. But yeah, it just felt like a total cop out, and it would have been a more interesting storyline. But I guess the writers just thought, oh, Ray sleeping around having illegitimate children, that's more Oliver style. And I guess another subplot is Sarah confronting Nick Rory, who's still imprisoned on the Wave Rider, saying how when they were almost going to freeze to death in space, that Captain Cole talked about his friendship with him and how he cares for you, and Sarah just also tells Captain Cole to stop being an ass, to just work out his issues with Mick. And so Leonard Snart decides that they're just going to have a fist fight to the death. If Mick wins, he gets to kill him and then take the jump ship and go wherever he wants, or he doesn't, if assuming Snart kills him. Mick wins the fight, but ultimately he decides that he can't bring himself to kill Snart, but he can bring himself to tell the rest of the team that because he failed to bring them in, that now the Time Masters are going to send Time Hunters after the Legends to erase them from existence, which is hinted at, is going to be, I guess, like in episode 12, not next week's episode, but the week after, where I guess they're supposed to be hunting past versions of the characters in different time periods, and so basically the Wave Rider comes under attack. They finally decided to use their common sense and realize, the weapons systems are offline, but they still have superpowers, and they start fighting off the Kasnian soldiers, the autonomous robots. And then Vandal Savage has Sarah hostage, and Rip decides to exchange Perdegaton's life in exchange for Sarah's, and it turns out that whether they kidnapped him or dropped him off in some other time, that the future still would have been set in stone. And it turns out by their meddling in that 2147 that they accelerated the timetable. Basically Perdegaton killed killed his own father in his sleep with Vandal's dagger, like not long after they left, and released the virus that killed millions. And so it just seems like the moral of the story is that if you have to kill a future dictator while he's young, just actually do it. It seems like, had like some cool ideas that they didn't really follow through with, like learning more about Kendra's past lives, you know, Ray leaving his legacy, that being a cop out. And I mean, the only thing that kind of paid off, I guess, was, you know, I guess Mick and Snart kind of resolving their friendship. But overall, it just felt like a really, like, disposable episode and just kind of a letdown. I mean, like, this is like of the most. I mean, they've had some filler episodes here, but this seemed like the most, like, filler. This seems like the one that's like the most disposable. It's like you could skip this episode and feel like you're not really missing much, to be honest with you. And it's probably my least favorite episode of this show thus far. I mean, do you guys feel the same way? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.